NBA betting. How the Clippers' recent surge is impacting both betting, fantasy. James Harden was traded to the Clippers on October 31 and upon his arrival to the lineup on November 6, the Clippers immediately lost 5 games in a row. At the time, anytime I was asked if the Clippers could work with Harden, I always said the same thing. On paper, Harden's skill set could work next to Kawhi Leonard, Paul George and Russell Westbrook, but the attitudes and willingness would have to mesh. All four are major ISO scorers, and both Westbrook and Harden tend to operate as ball-dominant floor generals that create offense for both themselves and teammates. But, to play together, one would have to be willing to play off the ball, and Westbrook doesn't shoot well enough for that to be his role. But Harden does. He joins Leonard and George as excellent shooters. So, I thought the four of them could work together if Harden moved off ball into more of a shooter, secondary engine role, with Westbrook running the show and each of the other three as elite finishers that could also attack imbalanced defenses. That was my thought when the trade occurred. Then, Harden did his introductory news conference and vetoed the idea that he could fit into a system with other players. He instead stated, "I am the system." With that as Harden's stated attitude, it was predictable that the Clippers would flounder. And they did, for the first couple weeks. Then, an amazing thing happened. The same Westbrook that had railed against coming off the bench in his previous stops, who had been a bit of a nightmare fit on the Lakers the last couple seasons with he and LeBron James both vying for the floor general role, reportedly volunteered to come off the bench for the Clippers. And everything changed. Since Westbrook moved to the bench, the Clippers have won 10 of their last 13 games, with an average scoring margin of plus 7.3 points per game that would rank 4th in the NBA and 2nd in the Western Conference if that were their margin on the season. They have won 5 straight games, the longest active winning streak in the NBA, and have ascended to the 8th seed in the Western Conference, and 3rd place in the Pacific Division. This seems to at least preliminarily answer the question of whether this Clippers team could come together and win following the Harden trade. Yes. For both fantasy basketball and betting purposes, what does this new normal look like on the level of the individual player's production? What the stats say. We'll start by comparing the individual offensive production for the 4 main players during the first 5 games of the season pre-Harden, the first 5 games of the Harden era when all 4 started, and the most recent 13 games with Harden starting and Westbrook coming off the bench. The charts show each player's scoring average, PPG, and number of field goal attempts, FGA, the number of made three-pointers, 3PG, and three-point percentage, 3P%, and the number of assists per game, APG, and turnovers, 2. A lot here, but let's unpack a few things. First, these are all relatively small sample sizes, so some of the differences may be due to players simply being hot or cold from the floor, as well as opponent quality. George, in particular, started the season on a heater, shooting 56.0% from the field and 51.2% from downtown in those first 5 games. In fact, George was taking fewer field goal attempts while averaging 28.8 ppg than he did during either of the other 2 epochs when his scoring average was down to 21.0 ppg or less. With that said, the trend of George scoring more next to Westbrook was borne out last season as well in larger samples. He averaged 23.3 ppg in the 44 games before Westbrook's arrival last season, then increased to 25.8 ppg next to Westbrook. Part of that is likely chemistry, with George and Westbrook having a previously established rapport from their time together with the Thunder. George was reportedly one of the biggest proponents of the Clippers bringing Westbrook to town, and they clearly play well together. And a part of that chemistry may be pace. Westbrook plays much faster at the point than does Harden. Westbrook tends to grab the rebound and go, leading to more fast break opportunities that fit George's skill set. George has the length, athleticism and quickness to finish the break at the rim, but he also loved to trail and spot up on the arc to hit fast break three-pointers. In fact, the Clippers as a team seem to thrive in that faster-paced game. Note that all three of George, Leonard and Westbrook were knocking down the most three-pointers and at abnormally high percentages during those first 5 games. It speaks to the team getting consistently easy looks. Thanks for watching NY Sports News. Stay tuned for more updates.